Hi, my name is Mohammed Kader. I'm doing a presentation on the analysis of the leadership of a famous world leader for the leadership course MGT 6345 as part of the summer session at WTAMU. I'm here to talk about the leadership of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the leader of the civil rights movement in 1950s, 60s in the United States. Today, I will go over Dr. King's traits, skills, how he influenced his followers, his accomplishments, and his effective and ineffective behavior. First, first trait I will talk about is intelligence. Intelligence is one of the important traits of a leader. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. studied in Boston University where he received his highest honor in Doctorate of Philosophy in the systematic theology discipline. This helped him with his verbal skills and further enhanced his confidence. The next trait is self confidence. It is the ability to be certain about oneself on the action one performs. The leader should make the right decision and be confident about it to gain the trust of their followers. Dr. King was a confident leader which attracted many of his followers. He was confident that he would get equal rights for African American people, even though it was a daunting task at that time. He received criticism along the way, but he never let it affect his goals. Another important trait Dr. King had was determination. Determination is the desire to get the job done. Dr. King was determined to get equal rights for African Americans, and he eventually did it. His determination and passion inspired others to join his movement. Even though he was put in prison and suffered other consequences, he never lost his determination. Next, we'll talk about important skills of Dr. King possessed that distinguished him as a leader. First, his first and perhaps most important skill is his verbal ability. Having a strong verbal ability, perceptual ability, and reasoning makes one a better leader. Dr. King had a strong verbal ability demonstrated through his many speeches, such as his famous I Have Dream speech. The next skill he possessed was empathy. A leader who has empathy for their followers tries to understand their situation. Dr. King had empathy for people in his community. He wanted to have a clear understanding of the challenges they faced, so he spent time with them to understand their situation. During the protest in Selma, Alabama, he participated in the protest and walked hand in hand with the followers as they marched across the bridge. Dr. King also had the important skill of knowing when to speak up. Leaders should be able to speak up in difficult or challenging situations. In Dr. King's letter from Birmingham jail, he insisted his followers continue to conduct the civil rights demonstration even though they wanted to delay it. Next, I will discuss how Dr. King influenced his followers. Dr. King was a transformational leader. A transformational leader requires more than a vision in order to enact change. They must have the skills to translate abstract and intangible concepts of broad vision and ideas into understandable and concrete goals and action for their followers. In his speeches, Dr. King used symbols, and emotional appeals to focus group members' effort to achieve more than they would in their own self interest. He had high moral and ethical standards of conduct. His followers deeply respected and trusted him to do the right thing. Dr. King used to refer his followers as his beloved community. This relationship was based on vision of love. Next, we will discuss Dr. King's notable activities and accomplishment. First, the Memphis sanitation workers strike. In 1968, African American sanitation workers in Memphis started a strike to protest against their discrimination, low pay, and working condition. Dr. King came to Memphis and participated in the march to support them. Next was infamous Montgomery bus boycott in year 1955. In Montgomery, Alabama, Dr. King led a boycott against city buses because they refused to seat blacks in the front of the bus. The protest gained popularity and more people joined until the bus system changed their rules. One of Dr. King's more famous protests was the March on Washington. In 1963, Dr. King led a huge march in Washington, D.C. with 200,000 of his followers. This is where the famous I Have a Dream speech was delivered. Some of his other notable accomplishments include the Nobel Peace Prize he was awarded in 1964 and the protest to end housing inequalities in Chicago, which he participated in for 6 months while living in a rundown building. Dr. King is always remembered as a great African American leader in the history of the United States. Next, we will talk about effective and ineffective decisions that Dr. King made as a leader. One example of an effective decision he made was in the case of Claudette Colvin. Everyone knows about Rosa Parks refusing to give her bus seat, but not many heard of Claudette Colvin, a 15-year-old African American girl who refused to give up her bus seat 9 months prior to Rosa Parks incident. Dr. King decided not to pursue this case as Colvin was an unmarried pregnant teenager and this was not as socially acceptable. In Colvin's case, Dr. King was challenged between fighting against racial segregation and the social acceptance of a teen mother. This demonstrates Dr. King's effective strategic leadership derived from his ideology and passion. An example of an ineffective decision Dr. King made was when he chose to fight for economic equality. Near the end of his life, King deviated from his initial vision. He progressively widened his concentration from racial equality to include economic equality. He lost the support of many of his allies due to this decision. Dr. Martin Luther King was a great leader. The traits and skills that he possessed made him a transformational leader. He enthused his followers, built confidence in them, and empowered them to face challenges. He was innovative in his strategies and solutions. He cared for development of his community that was oppressed and achieved his vision of equal rights for them. He had a good moral standing and trust among his followers for unwavering commitments. So, in conclusion, the leaders the leadership of Dr. King provides valuable insight into the difficulties and challenges faced by a transformational leader. His vision, traits, and skills make him among the most successful and famous leaders in the history. And thank you for listening.